So here we are, we're on one of our demo sites over here, and I'm going to log in as our admin. So from here, you come into a dashboard page, and it just gives you a general overview of what's happening in your system. Most designs being done by designers or dealers in your network, proposals being sent out, accepted and sold by customers. And up at the top, how many users, designs drawn, plus sold, total sales, things like that. So first things first is, let's just take a quick look at the users page. This is all your designers or dealers. So for wholesale networks, these would be dealers that are buying from you wholesale. For retail closet companies, these would be your designers going out in the field. So our first thing is construction settings today. So under the settings tab over here, you'll see a whole slew of items in this left side. These are all ways we can customize your system based on styles you want to offer, pricing you want to do, drawer box offerings, glides, hardware, everything like that. So let's hop over to miscellaneous here. And this is going to be a page that dictates how designers can design in our system, essentially. It's like construction restrictions or boundaries, if you will. And the way this page works is at the top, we have this minimum to a maximum and by increments over here. So the one that I typically like to show off is the wall hung shelf depth. So you can see it's got a minimum of 6, maximum of 24, and going by 1-inch increments. That means we can get wall hung units at 6 inches, 7 inches, 8 inches, up to 24 inches deep. Now, that may be too deep for your standards. You may want to make this 18. You may also want to open it up so that, you know, any depth can be done rather than limiting to full inches. But that's what this is doing for all of these options here. So things like floor staying shelf depth, general shelf width, drawer and door, I'm sorry, not door, drawer width and depth, basket width and depth, hamper, shoe fence, etc. Coming down a little further, we have some generic settings like default top shelf height, default closet depth, default island depth, if you're tracking notching and what you'll accept in those notching fields, and a lot more coming down here. We have on-off buttons for what you offer in the system. Things like backing. If you just don't want to offer backing, you just set it off. Top cleats and bottom cleats, if you want those to be on or even available. Cubbies, maybe you don't feel like cutting cubbies, you just turn them off here. All the way down to lighting, wire shelving, multiple catalogs, which is if you want to offer different offerings of ClosetPro, one being like a closet catalog, another being like a garage catalog. You probably want different units showing in those two, and catalogs is a great way to do that. And then every time we add something new to the system, it is put behind an on-off switch on this page. So every time a new feature or a new function is added, there's typically a new radio button here that you need to turn on because we don't want to change a system that already exists. So you'll have to just hop in here and turn on that new feature. Okay, so, and this page, it reflects all custom units happening in your system. And I say custom units because when you bring in a unit in ClosetPro, you can always get drilled down to the by part of that unit, pull parts out and put parts in. And then when you save that, it's loading these settings based on what's in there. So if it's just a wall hung with some rods, it's going to be pulling the wall hung shelf depth and the shelf width for that width section. It then gets drawers put in. It's now going to also be looking at these drawer restrictions. So it's for all custom units. Now for standard catalog components, we have the components tab over here. And so each of these standard, and I'm just going to filter through, we can see what different sections of or subcatalogs we have in here. And so I'll go to our hang bars here. And if I click into our double hang, this is the double hang in our main catalog, and it has its own width and depth restrictions, as well as a default width, default depth. And then down at the bottom, we can select height restrictions for the top shelf height. And the reason we have this is maybe you have a unit that you want to override those general settings on the miscellaneous page. And a good example would be like wall beds. So let's see if we have one in here, maybe Murphy. So here's a queen wall bed that I have saved here. and you'll see it has a max width of 83.5, default width of 60. And so the reason we allow the components to override is because you probably don't want most units being built out to 83 wide in one cabinet. But for a queen size wall bed, we need that. And we also want to probably restrict this width to maybe something like 60 as a minimum, because you need it to be a cabinet that will fit your wall bed mechanism. And so maybe if, 83.5 is the exact size, set at 83.5, put the default width at 83.5. You can set the depth restrictions, and then you can select any heights that you want to restrict it by. So this is a good way to set up catalog components that can override that miscellaneous page. And then for everything in between, it's going to be following that miscellaneous page to make sure designers and dealers in your system don't build something that you don't want to cut for them. Or that's just a hassle to install, however you want to set up your construction settings in your system. Let's hop over to the users tab now. So in wholesale networks especially, it can be useful to edit the individual designer settings. So in here, we have this can set options box. And when that's turned on, we then have this specific dealer or designer's defaults, essentially, that will overwrite a lot of those settings on the miscellaneous page. And so this can be good for dealers that have different defaults for their closet depth or corner spine depth, or if they use different wiggle room, filler widths, everything like this is just now down to the individual designer in here. It's also good for if you bring on a new designer in your retail company, you may want to restrict certain items, like maybe you don't want them dabbling in garages, so you just turn that off for now, or you don't want them double verting. Maybe you even don't want them making custom units, so they're just locked into using the catalog components that you have in your system. And now these only show up and will only overwrite if this can set options checkbox is checked. If I uncheck it in update, that now takes away, I can no longer scroll down, those settings are no longer there, and it's all going to look at that miscellaneous page. So it takes your default settings. So you really only need to turn this on when you want to allow the dealer or designer to overwrite your miscellaneous page. And so all these, when you first turn it on, there's this last checkbox, allow user edit. Some of these are already checked, but some you do need to come in and check to allow them to edit. So if you don't want to allow them to edit some of these things, like maybe your hangrail is locked in, you're always putting hangrail and wall hung units, then check everything but that, and they won't be able to change that when they go in to look at their settings on their end. Some other things down here, aside from the can set options, can view cost means that they will be able to see their marked up cost. So we have these markups in ClosetPro, and say these are multipliers. So say it's 2 times your cost in the back end. So a $10 shelf to this dealer or designer looks like a $20 shelf. What can view cost means is that they will be able to see that $20 shelf, not your back end price. It just means their cost to you. So it allows them to get individual broken down prices for the parts they're ordering from you. Can exclude hardware and can exclude accessories. This means when they go to purchase this job from you, that they can exclude certain hardware that you allow and certain accessories that you allow. So if you don't provide accessories or hardware to some customers, then they can just uncheck those. The pricing will still affect their price to their end customer. But when they go to purchase it from you, they can exclude those and provide that hardware themselves. Can set options we already saw. Can view price report. This gives a wall-by-wall pricing breakdown when you're in a design. So say you're in a 3-wall closet that's $3,000, and the back wall is listed at $1,000 of that $3,000. Then they can get into that page and they can request a price report. And it's going to break down everything on that wall to build up to that $1,000. So go into the individual vertical panel on the very far left side, its edge banding, and any hardware attached to it. Then it's going to look at the toe kick and its edge banding. It's going to look at the bomb fix shelf and so through the wall. So it just really breaks down very granular where all that pricing on a wall comes from and all the hardware attached to those parts. Can view cut lists. This gives the designer or dealer access to all of the cut lists available in your system. We'll be taking a look at cut lists more in depth later on today. But this is just an option to also give them the cut list for the jobs. Can reorder parts and can order new parts. It allows dealers or designers to order individual parts out of ClosetPro. So ClosetPro is mainly for full designs. You know, you build a reach-in, you build a walk-in, and you just order all the parts. If something comes damaged or they need to order a few extra shelves, these two will allow them to generate parts orders with just those individual parts on it. Pulls up like a big list, and they can check what they want and then order that individually from you. Can adjust design price. This is a hidden markup. It's a way for dealers or designers to put in like a hidden fee that's baked into the cost of goods. So say your customer is on the 5th story of an apartment building and there's no elevator, so you got to carry your material up 5 flights of stairs. Well, they might want to just bake in a price like a markup of $1,000 extra on that job because it's going to be a hassle carrying all that up. And they don't want to show that as a line item on their proposal to the customer. They don't want to show that they're charging extra. Then this kind of just design price will allow them to just mark that up and it will just be baked into the cost of goods. And now this is specifically for them to their end customer. This does not affect the price that you charge your dealer. Allow customer markup. This is really only relative or useful to retail companies, where if you put your sale price into the back end of the system and you don't want your designers out there setting their own markups on customers. So some retail companies just don't want their designers messing with their price. So they'll put in, you know, their top price and just allow them to discount on the proposal if they need to, but it doesn't allow them to mark up customers any further and charge more. Here, proposal was viewed email. This is a new one we've recently added, which will send the designer an email whenever their customer gets online and views the online proposal. So it's very useful. You know, you see the customer just opened up their online proposal and is viewing it, and then maybe like 15 minutes later, you give them a call while it's fresh on the mind, and they, and then yeah, you're right on their mind when you give them a call. So that's it for here for the user settings. Let's head over back into settings over here. And we're going to go into pricing now. So first I'm going to hop to colors. And in ClosetPro, we have 2 different main styles of pricing. And when I say main styles of pricing, I mean for our like panels and shelves. So if I come into our antique white here, our first way of pricing is just on a square foot basis. So this 90 cents, we're going to look at an 84 by 12 inch panel, calculate up the total square footage, and then slap this 90 cents for that total square footage on there. And then we're going to look at the markups, and that's going to be the price. So this will apply to fixed shelves, adjustable shelves, panels, anything that's using this material, this antique white. The other style that we have is part pricing. And so I'm just going to hop to another system real quick, which has that part pricing implemented. And what part pricing is instead of looking at that square footage under the individual color, it's going to instead come to a parts table. So we go to our parts table and we have our adjustable shelf. In here is all of our melamine parts. And if I click this custom $sign here, this is where the adjustable shelf pricing will be coming from. And so in here, we are setting up ranges for prices to be pulled. And this is going to be for our base color, essentially a 0% markup. Typically that's white melamine for most people. It's probably your most common color and it's probably the cheapest. So, and like I said, these are all up to values. So any adjustable shelf up to 24 wide, up to 14 deep, and up to 3/4 inch thickness is going to be $15. As soon as it stretches over 24 wide, so from 24 to 30 and still 14 deep, is going to be $20. So that 6-inch gap is all falling under $20. And then similarly with the depth, when the depth increases, it's jumping up to 30. and then when both increase, 45 and 55. And so you can update this. You can get as in depth as you want on this, or not. You just need to make sure that you have ranges covering everything that's allowed on your miscellaneous page. So say we did put in an adjustable shelf that was 45 inches wide. Well, it's not fitting into any of these because 42 is our max here. So you're going to get $1 million pricing error. And it'll tell you, shelf isn't long enough, or shelf is too long for this pricing. So go back and take a look at your price table. And this is going to be a similar table for all the parts in our system. So if I come over and let's head over to a panel, here's our standard vertical panel for the floor. We can come in and hit the custom $ here. And it's going to be a very similar table. So thickness is now width. So 3/4 inch material, 14 deep, up to 84 tall. It's going to be $100. And then if we go up 2 inches in depth, it's going to be $120, and so forth. And so to update these, you can either hit this pencil and I'll bring it down and populate the fields down here. Say we want to just adjust the price by $5, update it, it's in there. Or you can just enter these values in by yourself and make those breakpoints and pricing breakpoints wherever you see fit. Okay, so we have the square foot. Oh, so one last part over here is, so that pricing is for the base white. So that parts table pricing will be coming in here and seeing 0% markup. So that $15 shelf is just going to be a $15 shelf. For any other color that requires a markup, say antique white gets a markup, and you'll see in the system on the right has one, this 7% is just going to apply to that pricing table. So it's going to look at that $15 shelf, charge a 7% markup, and then that's going to be the price that's sent out. And so this markup is only for the part pricing. In ClosetPro, we allow it's a switch, so it's all or nothing, where you're either doing all square foot pricing for your panels and shelves, or you're doing all part pricing for your panels and shelves. There is no mix and matching at this time. So when you're using square foot pricing, this field will not be here as it's not relevant. One other thing to notice in here is we have the max panel height. And so if you have certain materials that you can get bored in maybe 10-foot panels, we can set this max panel height to be 120 instead of 96. And so the way it works in ClosetPro is you can allow people to design with single panels up to 120, but it's going to check this max panel height based on the material being used. And if this is shorter, say this was still 96 and we're designed to 120 in antique white, it's going to throw you a pricing error. It's going to tell you can't do that. And it's going to make the job $1 million just to let you know, or let the designer know that something's wrong. It's going to say your vertical panels are too tall for this material. So this is a good way to kind of keep your designers in check and make sure they're not designing something that you can order board for. Okay, so where I was heading before, heading back to parts. And so with both of those pricing structures, the square foot and the part pricing, whichever one you're doing, we also have the ability to add a labor cost. So for something maybe like a fixed shelf, let's find a fixed shelf right here. On this part, the fixed shelf, you have additional pricing in here. So cost per square foot, per piece add-on cost, per piece add-on percentage, and a minimum price. And so if you want to account for labor costs, where you need to drill the cam holes for a fixed shelf, and that costs you maybe $2.30, this is where we can put that charge in. So the way it works is every single time the fixed shelf is pulled into a job, it's going to come here and it's going to look at the per piece add-on cost, the cost per square foot, and also the add-on percentage, and it's going to start at that. So it's going to start at a base of 230, regardless of what material we're using, and then go to either that pricing table or pricing table for the part pricing, or a colors table for the square foot pricing. And the base is going to start at 230, then just add on that square foot number. For the add-on percentage, it calculates everything up and then adds a percentage on. Lastly, min price is not super relevant here, but for something like a glass door, maybe you want to make sure you charge at least $100, no matter what size it is. So if your square foot pricing for glass doesn't come up to $100, then the minimum price being set at 100 will force that to be charged. And so that this can be done for every part that can be used in the system. So we just did for the fixed shelf, but I mean, there's a ton of different parts in here that we can use, things like L shelves. So definitely a little more labor for an L corner shelf. Same thing with maybe like a radius wall hung panel. So you can come into the raised wall hung and you'll see we already have a $25 per piece add-on. Most likely for the hassle of edge banding that radius panel. So this is a way that we can account for those labor costs and just make sure that you're charging for every bit of work you're doing as well as the material. Okay, let's head over to markups again. So as I said before, or as we covered before, we do have this markup in here, which is taking your base price in the back of the system and applying it to everything that's pulled. So a $10 shelf will look like a $20 shelf, and a $10 accessory will look like a $15 accessory. These are just multipliers being done. And so let's set that. And then each dealer or designer has the ability to update or to set their own customers' markups. So I'll go into Vin Bergamo, the customer here. If I go into the edit customer up here, we'll be able to see what this customer markup is. So this one's 2, and we're not marking up the accessories right now. Maybe we'll just set this to 2 for this example. Update that. And then on all of these jobs, if we hit the advanced tab here, we'll be able to see what our margins are. So this base price, the $1,162.60, that is our cost in the back end of the system. And then we have that 2 times and 1.5 on accessories, which is getting us to $2,325.20. And then that again gets doubled from the customer right here to $46.50. So it's your back end cost, your cost of goods or cost of material, then your sale price to the designer or dealer, and then the end customer's cost or price to the designer or dealer. For retail companies, you don't really need to use both of these. I would recommend just using this one and not having your designers mark up the customer. You could just come right in and set this base markup to maybe like 3.5 or 4 or 5, 2, I don't know, whatever you want to charge your end customer. So this standard markup applies to all the melamine, baskets, drawer and door fronts, things like that. And then the accessory applies to everything under the accessories tab. That being said, we do have ways to bypass this markup. So if I go under my baskets and say our wire basket, this is our sale price in here, and we don't want to charge that 3.5 markup, you can just come in and you can uncheck this apply standard markup right here. So what that means is as I'm designing in my job, everything, all the panels, shelves, and whatnot are all getting that 3.5 markup. But when I put in one of these wire baskets, then it's just going to take that base price and not take that additional markup. So it'll just be $33 rather than the $100+ if I did that 3.5 markup. And that's available basically everywhere in the back end of the system on each of these parts: glides, hardware, drawer boxes, baskets, drawer and door fronts. Everything has that apply standard markup field. Additionally, under the accessories tab, there's an accessories markup. So in here, we have the apply accessory markup. So if there's an accessory that you don't want getting that 1.5 markup, you don't want that 50% markup on it, that's fine. Just put it in at the price you want, uncheck the accessory markup, and then it won't be getting marked up there. So there's a lot of ways to really play around these markups and make sure that you're not overcharging or undercharging on certain items to make sure you're covering your costs and making money. Okay, so moving on to, let's head over to a cut list and the exports in this system. So I think this will be our last planned topic for today. And then I'll see if we have any questions or specific things that people want to review, or I can just go into other parts of the back end if there aren't enough questions. But so getting started with the cut list on every job in here. Now I'm logged in as the admin and I see all these cut lists. And actually, I'm gonna hop back over to my other system real quick because we have additional cut lists in here. So in here, when you're logged in as the admin, you always have access to these cut lists over here. Your dealers or designers can also have access to these if you set that can view cut list on their user record. So I have this can view cut list here. So this dealer or this designer can also see these cut lists right on the customer page. And so these 4 in the middle after this first one are all standard. So this is a cover sheet. And I'm not sure if you're seeing what pops up when I scroll over, but this is a standard cut list. This is a by type cut list, which will group parts together. A parts quantities list, which just gives generic amounts of types of parts. So let's say you have 15 baskets, but it's not calling out the specific sizes. It's almost like a big pick list, where if you're going to be shipping out the job and you just want a quick number of everything, this can be useful. And then down here, we have a microvellum export, CAD code, selective drilling, cabinet vision, and then over here is a CSV custom cut list. So these first 5 are all CSV based. They'll come out in Excel. You just click it and it'll download to your system and then open up on your computer. So I just download this one custom cut list. I'm not sure what it will be, but so this is a custom cut list that we've worked out, CSV. The microvellum and so that CSV cut list is typically used for like parts libraries, something like Cutlists can import those files. For the microvellum and cabinet vision files, they're coming out in XML format. So if I click this, we'll see that it's a different format than that cut list. It's coming in XML. And then both of these will import into those drawing screens. So microvellum imports into microvellum drawing screen, cabinet vision imports into your cabinet vision drawing screen, and then all those drilling standards can be applied. Or I'm sorry, they will be applied when they're imported in. So when a fixed shelf hits a vertical panel, those 2 CAM softwares know what drilling fires off, and it stays within your current standards of cutting and machining. And then for CAD code, I don't remember what kind of file this is. Let's take a look. This appears to be yeah, so this is also CSV. So CAD code is another CAM software that we use, that we export to. That's great for machining in the back end. So ClosetPro can handle your sales on the front side, export to your CAMs on the back end. So this is the first place where you can get these files based on the individual designs. But say we wanted to group a lot of files together, we can do that. And it typically shows up when we have a sold job like down here. So if we come over to our reports page and go to sales, I'm just going to look for the last 60 days at anything in here. You can see we have a few jobs in here. Let me try to get a few more though. And so this loads all of my proposals on our test system over the last 120 days, groups them for their pricing in here. So you can see this is the cost versus the sale price. So some of these don't have any markups on them, but some do. And then all of these have grouped together files at the bottom. So if we generate this by type cut list, there's 2 designs on here, the Symphony test and the Closet design. And when I download this, it's going to run through the first design, give me its pick list. So here's it's just grouping all these parts together, runs through the pick list, and then goes to the next design, runs through all parts, groups the pick list, and so forth. So it just congregates all these together. Similar with the cabinet vision and microvellum files, it will bring all those rooms in at once. So you can import 8, 10, 20 rooms all at the same time on the same file, rather than generating individual rooms to import into those softwares. Also, the pick list here is one that we didn't have on the individual designs, because when you go to order them, if you had that exclude hardware or exclude accessories set for your dealers or designers, they can choose what on the pick list they don't want to order. So if I come to this pick list here, it's going to be for both of these designs, and just merges all of them together. And then you'll see our last comment here is include. So it tells us if that has been excluded or not. So on this job, we didn't exclude anything, but it just gives us a count up of all of the hardware that's on this job. At the bottom, it also gives us a sheet or a best guess at how many sheets needed based on the sheet size. So 4x10 or 5x8, we need 6 of them, and 4x8, we need 7 of them. And that's in autumn leaves. And then we also have it broken down for white. So these jobs were in 2 different colors, so they're broken down separately here. And now this number is based off of the weight that you put into the back end of the system. We look for a cubic volume. Actually, let me just pull up that setting. Going based off of this saying here, pounds per cubic foot. We see most customers using like 37 to 65, somewhere in that area for this pounds per cubic foot. It's probably best just to run some tests on it, and see how much things weigh if you are shipping, to hone in on where your number is for that pounds per cubic foot. Some other things from over here is if you're accepting payments online, you can view things like the receipt. This will pull up the receipt and tell you how they paid, cash or check or credit. If it's credit, show you the last 4, as well as the deposit amount and sale amount. That's all accessible back here, as well as any PDFs generated. And then again, all of these are the files that are attached to this job. So that is a broad overview of what you have in the admin side of ClosetPro, the control you have over dealers and designers, and how much leeway you want to give them. Now, there's still plenty of areas to explore over here that I can dive into, but first I'd like to check if there's any questions. And I'll also pull up our information sheet here, where if you have any interest in a free trial, if you're interested in the enterprise version, and then our email here, this info@ClosetPro, will go to multiple people on our team to answer any questions that you have, especially if you're starting to get set up in an enterprise account. Let us know. We're here to help. We'll typically schedule a lot of Zoom trainings with you to handhold you as you get your system set up, put in pricing, update colors, and update your whole offering and all that. So by all means, please feel free to reach out and let us know if you have any questions. But let me open up the chat and see if there are any questions waiting. You can also check with Megan and Joe, who are on the line, to see if they've been monitoring these or not. Let's see. Default rod height for single and double hanging. So you can save, Megan maybe answered, Jim, our double hang unit comes in with bottom rod at about 39, and top rod would depend on the height of the unit, usually 2 inches below. So you can customize your components, Jim, so that you can set the top rod at wherever you want. The bottom rod will hang at a default elevation, or I'm sorry, the panel will hang at a default elevation, and the rod is based on where that panel hangs. So say the rod's 2 inches up from the bottom panel, it's always going to be there. And that bottom panel elevation is always going to be a default elevation that's set for your standard catalog components. That can be changed. We just need to know, and we'll help you change that. Doesn't look like there's any other questions other than that. So let me just hop out here, and I'll spend 15 more minutes just popping around in the back end of the system. But please feel free, if you have any questions or want me to cover anything specific, just shoot them into the chat and I'll take a look at them and we'll get them answered. So one thing to look at is, and now I'm going to go into our colors here and show where we price things out in the back end. So this is typically the first thing we do whenever we get a new enterprise customer, is we go over pricing and we try to price out the color white. So if I go into my color white, you'll see we have quite a few options up here. First thing being color availability. So cabinets, meaning panels and shelves, can be designed in this. You can have specific colors that are only drawers and doors, or moldings and countertops. So maybe if you want to offer like a high gloss and you don't want a whole design built out of high gloss, you can uncheck this cabinets. It won't be available when you go to start design for your designers, but it will be available if they have specific doors or drawers in there. So you can have high gloss materials, very specialized materials that are high end. And so you can use them sparingly without breaking the bank on building cabinets out of them. Alternatively, if you can't get specific colors in doors or drawers, but you can in panels and shelves, then you can uncheck the doors and drawers here. Max panel height, we already reviewed. Square foot pricing, that's what's going to apply to our panels and shelves, just based on square footage of those parts. Edge banding here, we're just looking at linear foot based on the size. And again, this is in the color white. So it's the flat edge banding for white, we're not charging for. 1 mil for white, we're charging 24 cents per linear foot. And 2 mil for white, we're charging 48 cents per foot. Right here is countertops that are greater than 3/4 inch, or I guess greater than 1 inch. If you have a millimeter countertop that is 3/4 inch, it's just going to pull this square foot pricing here, same as if it were a pattern. But if it's 1 inch, 1.5, 1 1/8, we'll pull this pricing right here at $3.94, and then there's difference in the pricing for the edge banding. Coming down, we also have it broken out into our moldings here. So we're under the material white. So for white, it has its own pricing for crown 2-piece, own pricing for fascia, traditional crown, and you just put in a linear foot price for all of these. So it's probably less than that, but traditional crown maybe $7. You just update these as you go. Same with base molding. So we have a test base in here, so it's $2 as well, and then the traditional is $5. And then we have drawer and door fronts. So in ClosetPro, the way our drawers and doors work is everything is treated as a 5-piece. The reason for that is if you have a shaker door and you want a glass insert or a mirror insert, we want to charge separately for that outer rail or the outer stiles, which we call rails in our system. So it's 4 outer pieces, and then we can charge separately for the glass insert. Now, it doesn't make too much sense for things like slab or a pillow edge, but you just put in that square foot price here and here, and it's going to get the total square footage and just apply that in. Lastly, down here, if you offer spinners like the Lazy Lee, or you have your own style of spinner, they are priced out by the color and by the spinner component. So it's just priced all in one. It's not looking at individual components in that spinner part. So you just say, all right, I'm selling the spinner for $3,000, put it in here, and you're good to go. Looks like we have one chat in here. Let me pull this up. Question, I have done a design that was around 5,900, then added backing, which took it to over 7,000. When I removed the backing and did not revert to the original price, it was around 6,500. Do you know why this would occur? So Chris, it's tough to really tell based on without seeing the job. It could be anything from, the cutback on the shelves, handling it differently when you took it off. If there was a pricing update since you put in the backing and then removed it, it's really a case-by-case basis. One good way to find out why that would be the case would be to use that refresh price report. So if you come into a job, let me just hop back. Maybe I can get the one that we did already. Make a copy of this demo. So in this design, let's put on some backing. So we're at 18,188. Put on some backing. So what I'd recommend is once this is done, once it's pricing out, come back, make a copy. And then take the backing off in here. And if this price is still not the same, then what you want to do is go into the individual walls here. So if I come in here, it looks like this doesn't like the bottom pleats on these. But if you come in here, you'll see the wall cost right here. And if that's different than when you originally did it, do this refresh price report, and that will tell you where, or it'll help you track down what on that price report is different. So where that $700 difference is coming from. So when I download this price report, it hits this view link. We click that, it downloads this file. And this is where I was saying it's broken down by the individual parts. So just look at the old job versus the new job. One thing could also be that if it's in like smaller cabinets, that when you have backing, it forces certain sizes based on your heights table in the back end. So it might be coming back to settings and heights and the fixed to fixed sizes. Backing needs to snap between these. So it's very possible that like it expanded a section to fit this 10 and what is that? 9/16. So it might have expanded a top cabinet to be a little bit taller when you add the backing. Then when you removed it, it's not automatically readjusting that cabinet to fit that backing in there. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So we kind of covered colors. I'm just going to do one more thing and then we'll either wrap up, or if there's any more questions, I can answer those. So if we go to our parts here, our pick lists are generated based off of what is in our hardware needed on our parts. So you see I just filtered by our hardware needed. And so our toe kicks, our adjustables, all of our shelves have hardware attached to them. And this hardware is coming over here from our hardware table. So every single time a fixed shelf is pulled, it's going to pull 4 half dowels, 4 double dowels, and 4 cams. And it's automatically going to charge for those. So if you want to say this isn't the hardware you use, what you can do is just come over to hardware, come in here. Just about everything in this back end is going to be this same table. It might have a category drop down, a status of on or off or all, and then the top right is an add new. So maybe we want a different 5/8 screw, which I'll just add. And say we charge, I don't know, 35 cents for that. Add that. So now I have that 5/8 screw. We can go back to our parts and say that's going to go into our toe kick or whatever. Oops, where's our toe kicks? Top of the R page. So we come in here, and now we have that 5/8 screw right here, and we can attach as many as we want to this. Again, whenever this toe kick large is pulled in a design, it's going to also come pull all this hardware, adjust the price, and you'll be able to see that also on the refresh price report. So this is what I generated on the wall. It's our vertical panel, the edge banding, and then this is all the hardware attached to the vertical panel wall straight. And then our fixed shelf edge banding, and you'll see the 2 double dowels, 4 half dowels, and 4 brown cams. So that's how you can attach hardware to individual parts, as well as charge for your hardware. And then all of this is going to be feeding that pick list when jobs come through to your sales report. So you'll know how many screws you need, how many shelf pins you need, how many dowels, etc., just based on what you've connected over here. Okay, so I think that's all I have scheduled for you guys today. As I said before, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@closetprosoftware.com. If you're interested in a free trial, go to draw.closetprosoftware.com. And then if you have any questions, by all means, just let us know, give us a call or shoot us an email. And then also on the YouTube page, we do have a lot of videos that are related to the admin side of the system. Actually, let me head there real quick. And most of them have a tag of admin. So if you come to the help tab and go to training videos button here, this brings you to our YouTube page. And you'll see a lot of these have admin in the name, as well as some have designers. So it's just with new finishes, there's 2 sides to it, one to add them to the system and then one for designers to use them. So when we have things like that, we just throw admin on there in the title. You can just do a Control F and filter through all the admin videos over here. So things that might be helpful is pricing a color. That's how when you add a new color, where you make connections to it and how you price out those drawer and door fronts, as well as spinners, crown molding and base molding, things like that. And then the price report was the other one that we were looking at, honing in on why, if when we take off backing, is there maybe a difference in price? The price report will be great at tracking that down for you. So just pull up the two jobs side by side and generate that price report to find out where issues are going wrong. The price report is also great if you have $1 million price. You'll see a column blown out where it's a bunch of zeros at the end trailing and then $1 million price. That's how you can find where a price is wrong on that design. I guess speaking of, we can find one right here. I'm sure I have some $1 million. Yeah, so here's $1 million one. Let's take a look at this. So how to track down this pricing error for 35 million. If I come into the wall, you'll see I immediately get a message up here. So it's saying wall 1, section 1, which is what we're on. But if you're still not too sure, you can, or if you're not getting this message, you can do that refresh price report, open it up. And then once that downloads to your computer, you'll be able to see. So as I scroll down, you'll see right here where it's $1 million. That's the one that's having trouble finding a price. And then here's what I was talking about by the column being blown out. That's also going to signify that $1 million error. So in here, we can't find this box, and then we can't find handles for our drawers. Also can't find our fence here. So there's a lot of pricing issues with this one, but it just helps you track down what part on that wall is really giving you the trouble. And as I said before, if you're not getting these messages, then you can just click through the walls here and just see where this wall cost is $1 million plus. And that's how you know when you can generate that price report to track down what's causing that issue. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap that up here today. I don't see any more questions coming in. As always, thanks for joining us. We do plan to do more of these. So please give us some feedback on what you'd like to hear about. We're doing design side and admin side. So by all means, just email us at info or give us a call and let us know what you'd like to hear about in future webinars. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.